Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Films That Shaped Us. This is a brand new show that I'm doing about the films, about what it says, the films that shaped us, the films that were, important to us, whether that was in our childhood, our later years. I just want to talk to people about the stuff that got them interested, not just in cinema, not just in filmmaking or, theater or what have you, but in art. Like what made you drawn to art in all its forms. So that's what I'm interested in doing. We have an awesome guest today. She is a friend from my college days, which was like a year ago. Please welcome the awesome Taylor Reister. Hello.
Hey,
What's up?
happy to be here.
Great. So Taylor, tell us a little about yourself, what you're doing, what you're up to.
Oh, my life.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, no, for sure.
Okay. I'm an acting major at Otterbein, so
Yeah.
that's why I know Cameron. And I'm originally was born in New Jersey, but I live in Sarasota, Florida, so quite different from little old Westerville. But yeah, basically just here to chat with my friend Cameron, Chicken Boy over here.
Yes, let's do it. So you've brought a couple of films that you want to talk about today, but we can
Sure.
just get the ball rolling. What do you think was a seminal film for you in your development?
Yeah. Well, like growing up, as I had mentioned to you before, my dad played a lot of those like classic, like New York Italian films, like The Godfathers, all of them, literally all of them, and Catch Me If You Can and Goodfellas. So all of those definitely shaped me. Also, like films like Jersey Boys and The Temptations. My dad is super into the like music field, especially during
Yeah,
like the time period when he was young. So just kind of that like New York culture, I guess.
yeah,
um,
totally. Goodfellas, for a while was my favorite movie of all time. Um, it
I can
has
see why.
unfortunately it has been dethroned, but it's nothing against Goodfellas. I still love it. Um, and I think one of the great things about that movie is that I find every time I revisit it what I take away from it, like the main thing I take away from it, is completely different every time. Because the first time I watched it, I was just taken by the style of it. There's the amazing editing. Of course, there's that incredible long take where they go through the Copacabana. Um,
Mm,
and but then and really, like, I remember, because the first time I watched Goodfellas, I had never done any recreational drugs. But that scene where he is running from the helicopters and the cars and he's completely coked out of his mind, the way it was edited and shot, I was like, I feel like I'm on drugs. Like, it was, it's just insane stuff. But then when you go back and revisit it, you really, it's a very sad movie. Um, and I think you're sort of overwhelmed by the style and like the sort of like exciting whiz bang power of it, that you don't really see how broken the characters are, how broken all the characters are, and how it's ultimately about, someone who, despite having experienced so much, like, more life than most of us will ever experience in terms of like danger, he still at the end of the movie is very like, I miss it and I want it. And that's, yeah, it's just a really complex movie. I think it's Scorsese's best too, which is saying a lot because,
he's
yeah.
Scorsese, yeah. So, but yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I I think it's a masterclass in like directing and film editing and just cinematography in general. And I'm someone who, like, especially recently, I've been very much into like visuals
Yes.
and like colors and stuff. And I don't know, like recently, I don't know if you follow like Ryan Murphy's ratchet, like in American Horror Story stuff, but like
I don't
I've been
really, but
yeah, but I don't know why this like came to mind, but we are talking about visuals and stuff, but like the colors in that and stuff, like I just love that. And I think this movie like had a lot to do with like my love for visuals that has surfaced as I've like discovered more. I took a directing class last semester and I've just been like,
yes.
whoa, like so many things just clicked. So like
Yeah.
I'm looking when you asked me about movies, I was like, wait, like I see how this made me artistically like gravitate toward this.
Well,
So
one of the things, and I'm gonna assume that we took the same directing class,
yeah.
because one of the things that really stood out to me was the art portion.
Yes, we didn't really get to do that because
Oh,
of the Rona. So I don't know if I can totally vibe, but I'd love to hear what
but
you have to say.
basically that opened my mind because like I was like, oh, like there's a reason why movies are called moving pictures, because like and in visiting in watching a ton of old movies over the summer, I realized that more than anything, like a lot of filmmakers were trying to capture like just these just these moments, where you can where it's so everything is so meticulously placed, not like everything is so well blocked, so well shot, so well framed that it literally becomes like a painting, you know. Um
Yeah.
and but it just happens there's a part of it that's alive. It's like a painting that's living, you know.
Yeah, I can like
So
see the brushstrokes happening.
yeah, like it's so dope. I watched a movie recently that very much reminded me of that, where I'm like, these are paintings that with life. Was it was called Days of Heaven. And it's from the 70s.
Okay.
But it and I didn't necessarily like love the movie because I have just a problem with the way Terrence Malick, I just don't love that director. I think he's kind of pretentious. But I loved the visual palette and how, I mean, it is undoubtedly one of the most beautifully shot movies ever made. Like whether or not I loved the actual content or not, like the framing and the cinematography, the colors, as you were saying, yeah, um, yeah. So I've become, yeah. I feel like in my later, like when I was first introduced to cinema, like it was a lot of like, oh, what I connected to as a child was like the emotional pull. I was always looking for like, okay, what's gonna make me feel something? But now as an adult, it's like, okay, I want the visual aspects of this movie to be like, to be at the forefront in terms of like importance.
Interesting. Yeah. I wouldn't say that the visuals are I mean, also to me, like it totally depends on the piece. Like if I'm putting my like director brain on, like,
Well,
but
right.
I would say
You
visuals are definitely like a high ranking aspect for me.
like, I mean, yeah, if I'm watching like Fast and Furious, I'm not gonna put on my critic hat, you know,
Yeah.
because like this is like this it's a fun action movie. I don't need to like that's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm watching like an Oscar caliber movie or like an
Yeah.
independent film,
Merit for
I'm
sure.
definitely gonna be like looking for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um what else? Like what other genres connect with you?
Um, hmm. I don't know if I'd like specifically connect to one genre, but I don't know if this is like I'm like kind of being redundant. But when you were talking about the color thing, like Quentin Tarantino's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came to mind. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've seen it a
Just
few times
like
actually.
yeah, like the once again, like the colors in that, the color palette, I just thought was so specific and so well done. So like
That's an interesting movie because I think that, and I've had some interesting conversations with people about that movie because I,
yeah, I have feelings about the movie, but
yeah, I
the color,
love it. I think it's really kind of problematic, um,
oh.
like in its portrayal of women, which is kind of confusing to me because it's not like Tarantino. Tarantino has made strong female characters before,
Absolutely.
like very strong female characters.
His foot fetish is so prominent in this movie. It's
Oh,
I
yeah,
was like
it's
laughing,
off,
which
it's
I
off the
I
wall.
shouldn't have been laughing, but
um, but yeah, it just feels like almost like he was like, well, in this time period, this was how women were treated, so I'm gonna do it too. And it was like, what? Like, what's going
I'm
on?
gonna paint them like this rather than advocating for them.
Right. And like Sharon Tate was nothing but an object, a dream, you know.
Mhm.
But that being said, it's a good movie with like a lot to like about it.
No, there's a lot going on that's interesting about it. So
Yeah, I love, Brad Pitt and Leo are incredible in it.
iconic duo. Yes, love
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Um,
I'm a big Leo gal, so
yeah,
as I said with Catch Me If You Can.
I'm a
So.
big Leo gal as well. Um, uh, but he Tarantino, what would you say is your favorite Tarantino movie then?
The first one that I ever saw was Inglourious Bastards, and that sticks with me.
Okay,
So
for me it's either Bastards or Django, because I love
fair, very fair.
I love when he goes historical. I think historical Tarantino is better than like slick pulpy Tarantino.
Yeah, yes,
I don't know.
yes.
Yeah, I just think that because he can still bring that pulp and slickness to the historical, like, whatever time period he's
Yeah, he
doing.
brings style to like this to any story, but especially like I just think it's more interesting when there's that historical aspect because he handles it so well.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so like, it's so movie, and what I mean by that is like it's so like this is fucking fiction, like
Yeah,
that is so much like what his movies are. Like this is like, even though obviously some of the events in Bastards like happened and that violence
yeah,
happened,
based on real.
but in terms of like the dialogue, the sort of the way the violence is handled, it's very, uh like,
Dramatized.
yeah, it's dramatized.
Yeah,
And it's like, this is a fucking movie. And yeah. But
but that's
Bastard,
what's so good about it. Like that's what makes it enjoyable, in my
right.
opinion. Like I think he does a really good job handling like dramatizing it and bringing style, but also like rooting it in like real events.
There's a really interesting interview that he did in, I think, when Kill Bill was coming out, where
Okay.
it was like this reporter who was asking him, like, don't you think like this level of violence in your movies is like inappropriate? And he was like, no, because it's a movie. um, like, and they were like, you call yourself a pacifist, but like your movies are crazy. And I'm like, and he's like, look, like it's a movie. Like that, just because I have bloody violence in my movie, that doesn't mean I'm a masochist. Like,
No,
so
he's not projecting his views.
right.
Like I feel like no director every director is creating something. They're not projecting their own thoughts
Well,
necessarily. Like they can.
that would be like saying, I mean, that reminds me of like the whole thing when
That's
like
such a generalization.
that was like the whole thing when Joker came out,
Yeah.
and everybody was like, this is an irresponsible movie, you know? And I'm like, no, it's just about someone.
It is
Just,
a
just because the protagonist has certain views doesn't mean that the filmmaker also has those views.
yeah.
I think people often think that because certain characters in movies believe things, like the creator must also believe that thing. And like that's just not, what's great
That
about
that's
film is,
a understanding. Like that's a dangerous thing to believe in my
yeah,
opinion.
it
But
is dangerous. It because it just sets a dangerous precedent, for sure. Um, yeah, man.
sorry,
um,
I think I interrupted you. I think I had a lag.
oh no, no, you're totally good. Um, Anything? Obviously, this year for movies has been different because of COVID. We like no theater releases, but out of,
Yeah.
can you think of anything you've seen this year that stood out to you?
Honestly, haven't. I think I'm probably lacking like most recently in like the new releases, but something that is more recent, the Little Women movie, like
Mm,
obsessed with that, and Greta Gerwig. Like I've been super into like her like recent works. So that's probably the most recent like big standout, but I know that's like a universal standout for most people. So
sure. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, I love the time, like how she handled the timeline. I thought was beautiful, and the
Yeah,
different like lenses and color palettes she used for like to signify those jumps. I thought it was just like really smart.
yeah, and I love Lady Bird, her first
Oh
movie.
my god, I love Lady Bird.
Yeah,
Stop that.
yeah. Little Women is a movie that I feel like I appreciate a lot, but I don't necessarily love.
That's
Um,
fair.
but I think I've noticed like it's a weird comparison, but I compare her to Little Women, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Because
Okay.
they're not like each other at all in content,
No.
but her is a movie that if you ask most men who are into film, a movie that really connected with them, like 5 times out of 10, they're going to say her. If you ask recently a woman who is really into film about a movie that really connected with them, 5 times out of 10, they're going to say The New Little Women. So I think what
Yeah.
it is ultimately is that her had a very specific male view of things. It was from a male's perspective. The problems and lessons that he learns are very male specific. And
Hmm.
because I've talked to some women who are like, I didn't connect with her, but I appreciated it and I understand. And like
Oh yeah.
that's how I feel about Little Women. Like I think if I like, and I'm not saying that like because I'm a man, like I can't love the
No.
movie. I just think that for me, because like I love her, but I totally understand when like women specifically are like, I don't like that movie because I
No,
couldn't.
I feel the same way with a lot of like male-oriented movies.
Yes.
Like, and there are a lot of
So
male-oriented, and I think
since
that's
there
why I
are
appreciate Little Women so much.
since there
So
are so many that I love and have been, I've been spoiled as a man with all the male gaze fucking movies. So of course I'm going to appreciate Little Women because it allows for women to have like their like a movie for them that's like, okay, like this is told from a woman's perspective. It's
yeah,
about like, there's
it
nothing.
was me to hear about like the women's experience from a woman's perspective, just because I feel like we are talking about Quentin Tarantino, like his portrayal of women in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like which obviously like there was a reason he did that, but like I feel like the portrayal of women is so like influenced by men's perspective, especially in the cinematic industry. So
Well,
like
yeah. I mean, we have to be
yeah,
the ones to change that. And I
yeah,
mean, there are a number of male directors I think who do a great job. With specifically,
oh,
Ryan Johnson is one that comes to mind. He did like Knives Out and the very controversial Star Wars: The Last Jedi, um,
yeah.
which
I
I
think
which I love, but I understand, I guess, why people don't love it. Um, but he's great with his female characters have a lot of agency.
yeah. I
And
think with more movies surfacing like that, it's definitely becoming a little bit more mainstream to have like really fleshed out female characters,
yeah, I
which
think
I
that's also
obviously
because
appreciate.
we're getting more female voices as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. um, did you I'm trying to think. Netflix has some Oscar contenders this year. Um, with like
Yes.
they got like Mank, which is David Fincher's new movie. They have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is Chadwick Boseman's final performance,
Yeah.
which I thought was excellent. Um, yeah, they've got some good ones on there. So if you're looking for like, you're like, I need to like
Yeah.
Netflix has like a lot of the just like what I made like a top 10 list like a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and like I swear 5 of the movies on there were Netflix. Like
Dang, I'm gonna watch.
I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, like Netflix really is killing it right now. You know?
Yeah, they're a huge platform, and thank God we need it. I'm definitely like not caught up on all the new Oscar nominated and the new up and coming movies. So I definitely need to check out your list and hop on Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that I would definitely watch the Chadwick Boseman one because
Yes.
well, it's him and Viola
She's,
Davis as well.
yeah.
She's
Yes.
amazing in the movie, obviously. But Chadwick Boseman, like, it was his best performance, I think, in that movie. And
Wow.
it's so unbelievably tragic. I think I might have talked. I think me and Ethan talked about this on our last episode, but it's just you know, because I truly believe that he was one of the few actors in Hollywood that could actually play any role that he wanted to,
Mm,
because he played Jackie Robinson and then he played James Brown. Those are two completely different figures in history. Those are so different, and he played both of them like he really embodied them, like he really was them. And you know, with Black Panther, he became an icon and carried it with poise and grace, and it was really inspiring. So it's it's very tragic, but I really hope he wins the Oscar this year, and I think he might.
oh,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah.
think he's just great. You can't deny that. Like,
No, no, he's
yeah.
a beautiful actor. Um, yeah, I this was something I have a question. This is something that I asked Ethan like slightly, but when you watch film acting or theater acting, um,
Okay.
do you like what are you looking for specifically that like excites you? Because I feel like we as actors, yeah, there are certain things that we recognize that like, oh, that's good, like they did, that, like they have an objective, or like they, that was a nice beat or whatever. But like, what do you like look for in terms of like the things that excite you? Because with Ethan, I'll give you an example. With Ethan, he said that he enjoys seeing freedom in actors where they are so sort of free that they're so comfortable in whatever role they're playing that they can make any choice and it just sort of sticks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, sort of a complicated and long-winded question, but um,
Yeah. I mean, immediately before you gave me Ethan's example, I was just gonna talk about like in theater acting and film acting, but I think in film acting you have more of an opportunity to see it. But like I really study people's eyes because I
yes,
think like I
call
mean
me up.
that's not like freedom, but like I'm always on the eyes just because I think it can there's a lot of subtlety that happens with the way that people move their eyes, and I think that's a clear indication of does the person understand like their given circumstances, their objective, and the concept of character, which I know at Otterbein is a debated thing, but just so that's something I always focus on, and even in acting class last semester, like partner focus as an actor for me, like always like brings me back. So I
Yes.
would say the eyes are like a main thing I focus on, but if we're talking like I definitely admire freedom in acting, and I would say like subtlety in that they don't need to make their choices obvious, like they trust that like they've done the homework and like they know what they're doing and it'll come across without like projecting their choices, which I know is like I don't know, I think depending on your eye as like a director actor, like that means different things, like there's a spectrum of like of that you kind of have to find like where the balance is for you and for that character. So I don't
Yeah.
know, I think about that a lot. So
The eyes are a big thing for me. Actually, freshman year, one of the big things that I learned was just watching a classmate who actually ended up leaving. He had to leave um, freshman year. I'll shout him out, Michael Wheeler. We still talk if he's watching this. But he, the biggest takeaway, I learned a lot from him. He's a brilliant actor. But the big takeaway I learned was his eyes were so alive, always.
well,
And just it focused his acting, it simplified it, because there was such a clarity to the way that he used his eyes.
that's
um,
a really good word, simplify. Like that's I think that's exactly what I was trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm. I think I think there's two things I look for specifically, like security. And what I mean by security is like when an actor is so clearly comfortable on stage that you could throw anything their way and they're just gonna cruise it, you know. They're gonna figure out a way to make it work. And you just love to see an actor comfortable in their own or in the character's skin, I guess. Um, and I also, yeah, nuance. Um,
Yeah.
just in terms of like, especially if someone has like a sort of an internal moment, I'm definitely looking for the like, okay, where are the changes? Where are the yeah, what are they doing with their eyes? Like what are they doing with their inflections, you know? Um, like yeah, so I guess by nuance I also mean like just detail, you know,
Yeah.
like the small details.
The security thing I think is also really important because you're not going to get that nuance without that sense of security. I think especially live theater audiences can really sense when an actor is nervous, and then the audience member sitting there like, oh, I know something's going to go wrong because they know something's going to go wrong, and
Yeah.
that's why they're nervous. So yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely think it makes it more enjoyable.
totally. It's like I'm always looking for that like unspoken comfort. And what I mean by like unspoken is like where someone's like, "Oh, I really liked them," and like someone who doesn't know theater, like, "Oh, I really liked them," and they're like, "Oh, why?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just really liked him. He was good." Like 9 times out of 10, they were probably just very comfortable on stage, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like something that if you're not like a theater connoisseur, and you might not know exactly what it is, like I feel like not like a lot of the time that's what it is that attracts.
Yeah, and it's hard to always be confident, like, on stage or in whatever
Oh
you're
yeah,
doing.
I
You just have
mean,
to trust that, and if you
I know
can,
at
then
I know at Otterbein there were so many times where I was like, I can't do this right now. Like I'm not ready. Um, you know, like yeah. So, but you gotta just act and pretend like you know what the fuck you're doing.
trust
Um,
yourself, trust the process, and pray a little bit maybe, if you're into that, and just hope.
yeah. Um, man. Well, this has been lovely. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for having me.
yeah. Thank you for talking with me about a bunch of stuff, bunch of cool stuff. Um, yeah, so uh, I need to figure out how to wrap these up. Um, thank you so much, Taylor, for talking with me. Thank you to the two people who are watching, and we will see you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.